The disabled community makes up 15% of the world's population, yet on a day-to-day basis they face many challenges. Things like going to the bathroom, getting on an elevator, or even opening a door are daunting tasks for those with a disability. At the local level, people from Hamilton's disability community have started to unite. Once a month, they gather at City Hall to discuss some of the major issues that they face and how to address them. It's called the Advisory Committee for Persons with Disabilities. One of the members of the committee, Terry Wallace, says that mobility is the biggest concern.
I find that disability is not necessarily in having to use a mobility device. Disability comes from barriers that people put in front of you and other people's attitudes. You know, people that decide you can't do something, and the reason you're not doing it is because they've decided that you can't do it. You're not asked to do something, or it's just automatically assumed that you can't do it. And, you know, stereotypes, people in wheelchairs can't do this, or people in wheelchairs don't think this way, or people in wheelchairs, and that's absolutely ridiculous because basically we're people. I think we're making a lot of progress thanks to this committee. HSR is doing an audit of all the bus stops in the city and looking at how to make them all accessible. There's a lot, it was pointed out to them earlier that there are a lot of bus stops that are in really bad locations that aren't accessible. And it's great that Hamilton has all low-floor buses so we can get on any bus we want, but there's no point in that if you can't get on and off at the stops that you need.
The committee also sees housing as a priority. According to its members, the City of Hamilton needs to focus more on making housing more accessible for the disabled community.
What we really need to focus on is we need more accessible housing for persons with disabilities, fully accessible, barrier-free housing. There's not a lot of that. There's not a lot being built. There's nowhere near enough. And I think specifically it's thought of that most people with disabilities live on their own, so the only housing, accessible housing, is one-bedroom units. Whereas there are a lot of people out there with disabilities that are married, that have families, that have children that need two-bedroom and even three-bedroom units, and that really doesn't exist right now.
The 15-member committee is chaired by Anziz Millet. She has worked with Hamilton Cab to try and make taxis more accessible for the disabled.
And the taxi script, especially the taxi script, that was something that we brought on so that people with physical disabilities could ride a taxi at a reduced rate because of the limited options in getting places in a timely and spontaneous manner. We've also made some fantastic movements forward in the physical access, such as ramps for buildings, accessible doors, washrooms, those kinds of things.
Aside from the physical challenges, the disabled still face unwarranted stereotypes. This includes extreme patronizing, social neglect, and a belief that they are unable to contribute to society.
I would have to say, though, in the last 20 years, it's improved dramatically, but typically it's almost a discomfort to look at a person with a disability and speak to them directly, especially if there's somebody else with them. Some people have a tendency to direct their questions or instructions to the person beside them rather than directly to the person.
Millet is quick to point out that it is not just the physically disabled that experience this mistreatment. Those with mental disabilities also suffer.
One of the other areas that we've made some improvement is even addressing the way a police department or a police officer would look at someone with a psychiatric disability and to identify that just because they're not able to answer a question quickly or their behavior may be a little bit different, that they're not criminal, they're not crazy, but there are some issues and they have to deal with that in a specific way.
Mohawk College is taking steps to address disability issues with the Accessibility Plan for 2013 to 2015. It aims to provide dignity, independence, integration, and equal opportunity for those with disabilities.